go live to Queen's Quay, where Mayor Olivia Chow and Budget Chief Shelley Carroll are announcing Toronto's action plan to combat U.S. tariffs.
All treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers,
as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. On behalf of the City of Toronto, I would like to welcome you to today's event as we unveil the proposed City of Toronto U.S. tariff response, a strategy to protect businesses, workers, and residents here at Toronto Fire Station 334. Toronto Fire Services is Canada's largest municipal fire department and the 5th largest in North America. Every day, we provide essential fire protection, technical rescue, hazardous materials, and emergency medical assistance to keep Torontonian residents and businesses safe. We are proud that Toronto is the largest city in North America to have an internationally accredited fire service under the Commission of Fire Accreditation International, a recognition held by only 310 agencies worldwide. This reflects our city's leadership in safety, preparedness, and resilience. Just as we are committed to protecting the city from fire and emergencies, today's announcement is about protecting Toronto's economy, businesses, and workers from new and significant challenges. Resilience is what makes this city strong. Whether in public safety or economic security, we are prepared and proactive and stand together to support our communities in times of uncertainty. With that, it is my pleasure to now welcome our Mayor, Mayor Olivia Chow, to share her remarks. Mayor?
Good morning. Joining me is the members of the Economic Action Team and our City Manager and our Chief Financial Officer, and is Pat Tobin, the General Manager for Economic Development. Thank you to Chief Jessup for the introduction. Canada and the United States have enjoyed a long-standing and deep friendship. Together, we created a successful economic partnership that was the envy of the world. This partnership supported millions of workers and businesses on both sides of the border. Toronto represents 25% of Ontario's economy with $123 billion in U.S. trade every year. And President Trump's trade war is putting all of that at risk. Canada is facing a senseless, harmful trade war. People are feeling anxious. They're worried about their jobs, the cost of food, the cost of living. And over the past several weeks, what we have done is to act and have convened leaders from business and laborers to build Toronto's Economic Action Plan. And some members have joined me today. This plan outlined a series of actions we will fulfill over the next 30 days, and it will create a more resilient economy so we emerge from this trade war even stronger and more united. Canadians have never been more united. We will never be the 51st state. We are stronger together. As Canadians, we care for each other. We look after each other. We have each other's back. And we will support local businesses by shopping local and buying Canadian. We will launch a Love Local shopping campaign by working with partners and business improvement areas to promote Toronto goods. And our BIA rep is with us today. And today, with Chief Jessup, I'm announcing Toronto Fire will buy 17 made in Canada pump trucks. These are pump trucks many of you are familiar with that you see here today. They are a critical piece of our firefighting equipment in Toronto. And going forward, they will be made in Canada. Further, only Canadian companies can bid on construction work that is worth under $8.8 million and goods and service under $353,000. US-based suppliers will no longer be able to bid on city contracts. Businesses who have been most impacted by US tariff must be supported. The workers will be hurt. Today, I'm announcing an industrial property tax deferral program to help businesses who needs it most. Excuse me. The program will allow the affected property owners to defer payment for 6 months. Excuse me. You know, workers get hurt. My throat gets a bit itchy. This program will allow affected property owners to defer payments for 6 months, giving businesses needed flexibility. Excuse me. There's Lake Ontario there. I need some water. It's okay. I'm good. To reduce red tape and help local businesses, Toronto will create a one-stop shop to navigate city services. We're also working directly with business owners to retain business and promote expansion efforts. Toronto is a beacon of hope for people in every corner of the world. We have the talents, the creativity, and the connection to the global market that comes from our diversity. As Canadians' economic center, with the most educated workforce in the world, Toronto accounts for the largest share of international investment in the country. We are building a resilient economy. Right here in Toronto, we are proud to have discovered insulin, stem cells, and gave birth to artificial intelligence. Working together, Toronto have tackled difficult challenges in the past. SARS, the 2008 financial crisis, and the COVID pandemic. Each time we emerge stronger. United, we will do it again. Our economic action team will continue to meet as we champion a Team Canada approach by working together with the provincial and the federal government. We will stand united as proud Canadians, and Toronto will emerge stronger than ever. I want to now like to invite Yong Wu to speak about what this plan means for the business sectors. He is the chair of the Toronto Board of Trade and former CEO of Mars in Toronto. Yong?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Chow. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for bringing us together, Mayor, for uniting us at this critical time. To my colleagues on the Economic Action Team and to all of you here today, it is time to roll up our sleeves. Toronto's resilience is not just a slogan, it is in our DNA. The Mayor talked about the many crises that we have come out of over the past several decades. And Each time, we've come out stronger and more resilient. As a serial entrepreneur myself and former CEO of the Mars Discovery District, I've seen firsthand how uncertainty can paralyze, but it can also catalyze. The tariffs from the US administration are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They are an existential threat that's felt by our manufacturers, our startups, our small businesses, and our families who are worried about putting food on the table. But I just want to be really clear about this. Toronto does not bend knees. We innovate. When Mayor Chow asked me to serve on the economic action team with other civic leaders from our community, I said yes, without any hesitation. Why? Because this is not about politics. It's about survival, and it's about reinvention. We are civic leaders from labor, from business, and from the community who are here to help forge solutions that are as bold as the challenges that we now face. Complacency? That's for bystanders. We're builders. The action plan is squarely focused on being agile, targeted, and urgent. I'd like to highlight a few of the key measures that are being announced today. The mayor talked about Buy Canadian procurement. By prioritizing local suppliers for contracts and construction, we're injecting resilience into our supply chain. At Mars, I saw how small pivots, like advocating for adoption and procurement of solutions from high-growth local businesses, can safeguard jobs and spark innovation. Through the COVID pandemic, we actually grew the innovation community by over 450%. So we know how to do this, folks. Property tax relief, that 6-month deferral for industrial businesses, it's money back into cash flow, and it's a holiday from fees. That is breathing room in order to adapt. I love the Love Local campaign, and activating BIAs and promoting Toronto-made goods is not just feel-good marketing, folks. It is economic armor. It turns everyday spending into collective strength. And I think what I'd like to also point out is that we're here to play the long game. Yes, we have to respond to the tariff threats, but let's not kid ourselves. Tariff exposure is a symptom of a deeper vulnerability. For decades, we've leaned too heavily on a single trading partner. What's the cure? It's a Team Canada playbook, a playbook that addresses the long game. For instance, tech-driven productivity. From AI adoption to reskilling our workers, we're launching initiatives like the Mayor's Innovation Challenge to turn disruption into advantage. Housing and infrastructure. We all know there's a housing imperative on the go, but modular housing projects are not just about bricks and mortar. They are job engines, and they're productivity multipliers. Let's talk about trade diversification. Canada, by the way, is not the 51st state, but we do have free trade agreements with 51 countries with over 61% of the global GDP. Our diverse populations and diaspora networks are untapped superpowers of this city. That's how we unlock these relationships. My message to Ottawa and to Queen's Park, we're all in. We all need to be all in together. Funding school food programs stabilizes families and farmers. Accelerating electrification cuts reliance on US energy. Let's smash these interprovincial trade barriers, because a fragmented Canada is a weak Canada. Maybe some thoughts of my perspective as an entrepreneur. In startups, crises are inflection points. I've lived it. The businesses that thrive are not the ones that are waiting for calm, not the ones that are trying to go back to business as usual. They're the ones that rewrite the rules at times of challenge. So I'd like to make this comment. This action plan is not a Band-Aid. It is a blueprint for a Toronto that's self-reliant, that's tech-savvy, and unapologetically global. So that every worker, every entrepreneur, every business owner, and every policy maker who's listening, let's stop being market takers. We must be market makers. I know the road ahead might be tough, but Toronto does not back down. Together, we will build an economy that is not just tariff-proof, but future-proofed. Thank you, everybody.
Well done. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Young. We will now take questions from the media. Members of the media are asked to line up at the microphone to ask their question.
No questions. Okay. Love our plan.
That's not true. Okay. Would you mind if I record?
No, go right ahead.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm Alexander Zdravko. I'm with Taxi News. I have two questions for you today. My first question is, members of the taxi and rideshare industries have asked that the City of Toronto require staff to use local ground transportation firms for city work and to remove Uber and Lyft from their work phones. Will Toronto meet this request?
Okay. Well, you need to read our report. It is a recommendation in there that we are giving preference when the city employee are traveling outside Canada. If they're going to the United States, they need to ask our city manager for permission, unless it's essential business. We are asking those that are now relying on shopping a lot of American companies to shop local. And those that travel within Toronto or using rideshare, we're asking them to give priority to locally based rideshare program like taxis or others that are created right here in Canada.
Got it. Thank you so much, Mayor. So as for my second question, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is reconsidering its emissions policies for transportation industries. Given that there is still not one single insurance company which will insure an all-electric taxi in Toronto, will you consider revisiting the deadline to make all vehicles for hire all-electric?
The question is, will we ask? We are giving incentives for people to migrate into electric cars, except we will stop giving incentives, financial incentives, to buy Tesla. So that we have a decision has been made in there. But then there are other electric cars around. And as to how long it might take, we would like to reduce our greenhouse gas emission, our carbon footprint as quickly as possible. But we can always look at whether the deadline makes sense or not.
Got it.
We have certainly said that if you want to buy Tesla, go ahead, but don't count on taxpayer money to subsidize it.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Okay. And it's recommendation 10 of the report.
Got it.
For you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mayor Chow. Mattis Habibinya, Toronto Star. So you said that the city is banning U.S. companies from bidding on competitive procurement, but the report out right now says that the city would have the ability to ban them, quote, if it was in the city's interest. So I guess my question is will all U.S. companies be banned from bidding, or is this going to be on a case-by-case basis? For example, if it would disadvantage the city, would we not consider that kind of ban?
I think majority would be banned, but let me ask our city manager that can answer that question in fine details.
So I think it's been mentioned here, particularly by Young, this is a period of transition. It's less about cost per se. It's more about if we can actually find a more local supplier. So that ability to potentially still have to procure from other places, including the U.S., is about the transition period we're in. One of the other pieces we're going to be asking is our division heads, those leaders who do have to today procure a lot from the United States. They're actually going to convene leaders from other municipalities and talk about how collectively we may work together as municipalities, drive that purchasing power up and shift some of that more to Canadian suppliers for sure. So it is about those areas where we have real difficulty finding another source. We're going to just leave that aside for now and work on a transition plan. Everything else, we're going local.
Paul, while you're up there, do you mind if I just ask a follow-up to that?
Yeah, by the way, we will have a technical briefing to go into the fine details of the plan, including which recommendations are we talking about. And the ones that the city manager was talking about is recommendation 5, partnering with Toronto region municipalities and the province to reduce reliance on U.S.-based suppliers. So there are details in there. Okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yep,
I just had a quick follow-up for City Manager Paul Johnson. Could you give us an example of an area where it will be difficult to completely alienate ourselves from the U.S.? Correct me if I'm wrong. We have a really complicated and integrated water system that I imagine is an area we wouldn't be able to really apply this to.
Does anyone want to tackle that, or do you want to do it as a technical briefing?
Just quickly, I'll say I'm not sure there's any area we can't transition to. We have some areas right now that would be problematic tomorrow to transition away from. And you talk about water systems as being one of those examples. So I want to be very clear. It's not about saying, well, we can't. It's about when. And the mayor has given me clear instructions. Let's try and move away from a reliance on American suppliers as soon as we can. If that can be immediately in the next series of procurements, absolutely. If it takes us a little bit of time, in certain areas like water, that might be one example where we need a little time to ensure that our other suppliers have the capacity to meet our needs.
Great, thank you.
In case any other questions on procurement detail, I have a one-pager with a legal definition on what a Canadian supplier means, a Canadian business subsidiary means, and an American-based supplier. It's a long, complicated detail, which I could go into, but probably shouldn't be the one to do it. But we could provide that detail later on in the technical briefing. Okay. It's included in your package that we've sent to you. Okay. Under procurement details.
Good morning, Wilman Qureshi, 680 News Radio. This question either is for you, Mayor, or maybe Paul or Steve. I'm not sure who can answer. But in terms of the tax deferral plan that's been put forward, are American companies eligible for that break?
I doubt it. This is, it's a, why don't I get the CAO, that would be the Chief Financial Officer, to give you the details. The whole purpose is to support Canadian industry, Canadian workers that are hurting, which is why the head of the Toronto Labour Council, Andrea Bedington, is with us today, reminding us that we need to retrain, we need to protect our workers and our industry, which is why the industrial class are getting a deferral. But in terms of details, our CFO can give you some information.
So who would be eligible are the roughly 2,000 industrial property owners in the City of Toronto that operate in Toronto or employ Torontonians and Canadians alike. Those companies, those property owners here in the City of Toronto would be eligible for the tax relief program.
So does that include American companies? Yes, no?
It could be a Canadian subsidiary, but it would be property owners here within the City of Toronto.
So this is not my follow-up. Does that include Amazon? Would they be part of that pack there?
I'd have to look in the specifics. It would be, again, industrial property class that operate here in the City of Toronto.
Okay. And just about the pumper trucks here, I don't know, again, if it's Steve or Paul or the mayor can answer this. These trucks are being bought. Were they previously being bought by an American company and you're transitioning now to a Canadian company? And what's the cost on the purchase here?
Yeah, it's made in Canada. Yes, previously it was American. But procurement policy, Chief, do you want to take that on?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor. So the fire apparatus were approved in the 2025 budget, and we will be, as the Mayor has indicated, we'll be working with our Chief Procurement Officer to make sure that the purchase orders go out to and are available to Canadian manufacturers.
Beatrice Baseman, CP24 Chief. This might be for you again on the pumper trucks. How much did one of these trucks cost to buy from an American company, and how much more are you expecting it's going to cost from a Canadian company?
So I don't have that information at this time. We've not put the purchase orders out yet, and that's something that we may be able to report back at a later time.
But how much do one of these trucks, when you're purchasing them from the American company, how much do they cost?
I don't have that information in terms of a specific American company. I can tell you the pumper trucks are generally about $1.2 to $1.3 million, but I have no specific information on what it would cost from an American company.
You will get all the information. This action plan is going to the executive committee on Wednesday for approval, and then for council the week after. It will be adopted there.
I know it's still early days, Mayor, and the action plan is still kind of working to figure out what kind of a toll this is going to take on Toronto's economy. Do we have early estimates as to how much this is going to hit our city, how much it's going to cost, how much it's going to hurt?
This morning on CNN, the American journalist asked me, how much pain can Canadian take? Okay. My answer was and is, our ancestors chose this beautiful land we call Canada. We believe in public health care. We believe in supporting each other. Myself, I came from a place where my mother had to fight in order to survive, and we believe in our right. And we are very united. We're also very resilient and hardy because we're a bit colder country than U.S. And we have to depend on each other to survive, especially in the north, cold weather. That's why we are very united, and that's why we're very resilient and strong. So we're ready, and we can tackle whatever comes our way. And everywhere I travel, I'm hearing when I ask the question, will we ever be 51st state? That answer is so loud, so strong. It just is incredibly inspirational and uplifting. So we're ready. We know we are strong and resilient, and we are united. That's why we will win.
I didn't ask about resiliency. I asked if we knew what the dollar figure was, how much it would hurt the city.
That's a bit early days. Pat Topin, our general manager of economic development, might have an answer.
Hi, thank you very much for the question. What we do know is Toronto has a highly diversified, resilient economy. The mayor spoke to that earlier and how we weathered other crises. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce just did an analysis of the 41 biggest cities in Canada with what their risk to the U.S. tariffs are. Toronto placed 27 out of 41. They're lower than the Canadian average. So we think that we'll weather it fairly well. There will be impacts. Manufacturing would be a sector that we're watching that employs about 160,000 Torontonians right now, about 8% of our workforce. But it's a little too early right now to say what those numbers might be.
Okay. You do notice that, at least I do, the American stock markets went down by 6%. The Canadian stock market went down, 3.5%? So seems to be doing better. And we have an manufacturing industry expert here to give you a bit more information.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor. To the question about the impact on the economy, what I would suggest is look back to the financial crisis in 2008. The GDP dropped by about 3.3%. And the expected GDP is expected to drop this time perhaps by 2.6%, somewhere in that area. So if you're looking for the magnitude to the city, the magnitude of the province, or to the country as a whole, look to what happened in 2008-09. That'll give some pretty good direction as to what the impact might be coming up.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Paul Doyle, CFO, Atlantic Packaging. Proud to be part of the mayor's committee. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wallo. I'm a Reuters news agency. I want to ask about the employment and situation. Like, have you seen any layoff because of the tariff, or can you explain me about how hurt the people who regarding with the employment issue?
I don't have immediate numbers yet. It is earlier days. But one thing that we are saying that we will do is that what we will do is to retrain our workers. We're asking the federal and the provincial government to provide financial support for workers that are being laid off and or lost their jobs. We are asking folks to, it's recommendation number 9, partnering with business to prepare for tech and tariff disruption that will impact our local workforce. And we will work with universities, colleges, and training partners to make sure that Toronto workers impacted by the tariff or tech adoption so that they can reskill and upgrade their skills tailored to the workers' needs. So that is one of the recommendation 9, which is what we will be doing.
Thank you.
Mayor Chow, obviously Brampton, Vaughan, they've kind of come out a little bit earlier with their response plan. The City of Toronto kind of took a little bit longer, a couple weeks here. Why did it take us longer, and is it enough? You know, you guys took a couple extra weeks here. Is the response enough? Well, Toronto budget is $79 billion. It's about the size of Florida. We are the 4th largest city in North America, and we have a huge, actually the most educated workforce in the world. We have, because our budget is so big, we have thousands and thousands of workers. It's important to consult with the industry experts. As you can see, that we have the economic action team. It's also the goalpost keeps changing. One day it was the tariff was on, and then the tariff was not on, and then it was 25% of steel and aluminum, and then it was 50%, it's back to 25%, and then there was the deadline, and then there wasn't a deadline, and then there's April 1st, and then, maybe it's April 2nd. Who knows what President Trump is going to do? So the earlier days, we were looking at where things may settle. Given that it probably won't settle anytime soon, we are now presenting this plan, which is the 30 days. You will notice at the end of the report, it says that we have a reporting back. There is a 60 days and a 90 days plan to come. Okay, so we are mapping out what we are doing in the long run. The last page of the report talked about looking forward. It gives you 4 areas where we are working on. A lot more details will come forward. I think it's important that we are measured and that we are very precise. About a week ago, I talked about that no American companies can bid, okay? And I was very specific, and it was earlier than the release of the report. So we took that piece and announced it already. Okay,
That's it, everybody. Thank you. We have staff here who can ask or answer technical questions off to the left of the flag.
We've been listening to Mayor Olivia Chow alongside some other city officials and fire officials announcing some of Toronto's action plan to combat the U.S. tariffs. One thing that she mentioned is that Toronto is going to be purchasing 17 made-in-Canada pump trucks. These are critical pieces of firefighting equipment, and also updating the media the fact that only Canadian companies can bid on contracts for city services, anything under $8.8 million. Also, U.S.-based suppliers, they're no longer going to be able to bid on any of these contracts. And she also made an important note for business owners that for property tax deferral program essentially will allow owners to defer payments for 6 months as we continue to navigate these tariffs.